Hey there YouTube world, Matt Schwartz here, the Welding Geek. On this episode of the Welding Geek, I'm going to go through how I went about making all my armor for my post-Empire Mandalorian build. Also, it's the same process I used to do my Deathwatch Mandalorian build from the Mandalorian series. So, if you want to see how I went about fabricating all this stuff, stay tuned to the video. We're going to start off with the chest plate templates first here. We're going to get them glued down to our material, get our air pockets squeegeed out, then we're going to make our way over to the shear. I'm going to shear out the flats and get them blanked out. Then I'm going to center punch mark where all the holes are going to go with our stare at center punch, and then we're going to make our way over to the turret punch. Alright, now that I have my pieces kind of blanked out here, I'm going to use my stare at center punch and center punch all my holes. And then I'm going to make my way over to the turret punch and punch all these holes out. The holes that I'm punching out are for mounting, and I'm also punching out the inside radiuses of some of my cuts. So when I go over to the bandsaw, there'll be room for the blade to come through. And it also, with radiuses on your inside corners and outside corners, it just makes your part look more finished and nice. The material I'm using is 063, which means it's a 1/16 of an inch thick. It's 3003 or 3003 aluminum, which is the alloy. It's a little softer than 6061, and the bandsaw I'm using has I believe it's in between 18 to 24 teeth per inch TPI, and I'm running it on a fairly fast speed for aluminum. Now that I'm done with the bandsaw, I'm going to head over to the belt sander and radius off all my outside corners. Now it's time to head over to the workbench and hit all the bandsaw bladed edges with a Scotch-Brite on my angle head, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of deburr all the burrs as well. So this is my chest diamond tool that I made. It's just some stacked up aluminum. I have my die and my punch basically. This is just going to form the center chest diamond. It bolts up like this, and then I'm going to bring it over to my hydraulic press and press it down, and you will see the end result here in a second. Now that it's pressed down, I have my fancy schmancy little feature here in the metal. I'll go ahead and take off the die in the little punch part, and you will see the press feature will be my little center diamond here for my chest plate. Now I have some simple bends to make on my apron brake. I've got one here on the center section of the chest, and a couple on the left hand and right hand parts of the chest that I'm going to go ahead and bend. Now that I have my more simple bends completed, I'm going to go ahead and come over to the dake press here, which is an air hydraulic press, and put in my more complex bends using a set of punches and dies. to get me exactly where I need to be. This is such a great tool because you can get these more complex bends in. The bends where you can't fit an apron brake or a finger brake into, these tight little compound bends. Such a great tool. Now it's time to perform what we like to call in the business some tweakonomics. I'm going to go ahead and just bend this over this dolly I have on my tool bench. Nothing precise, just putting in a little tweak across this to get that little feature across the chest plate that I want. Nothing precise, just bending it over tube. That's what's nice about being able to work with 3003 aluminum. I'm going to go ahead and put a radius on all my edges to make it look a lot cleaner and nice and more professional looking. This is my bead rolling tool and just puts a radius on the edges like so, and makes everything look more complex, I guess would be the word for it. You can see how nice and smooth that radius is. This is another great tool to have in the toolbox. Next up, I need to put a curve in my chest plate here to curve around my chest. I'm going to use the shrinker here to do the top edge and tweakonomics to do the bottom, and we'll get our nice little radius so it forms to my chest. And you can see here on how just shrinking that top edge gives us the curve that we're looking for. Now we're back at the workbench. I'm going to get out the old TIG welder and weld up all these little seams. I'm using a Dynasty 300 Miller TIG welder. I'm running about 155 amps. I'm using 4043 rod, which is the alloy of the rod. Here there's a little doubler plate that you'll see here in a little bit that I'm welding all the way across the bottom. I'm just going to weld these pieces together, and then I will get them dressed off and looking like they are one piece, no welds. As you can see, I'm going to use a plethora of different tools on this. I'm going to use an angle head grinder. I'm going to use my DA sander. I'll use some hand sanding as well. Just trying to smooth out the welds and then smooth out the scratches from each of the different tools that I'm using. I'm just trying to make it look one uniform piece of metal. You'll also notice in the sequence is I'm going to go ahead and cut in the little slot in the chest plate and use my angle head to smooth it out and get it all dressed out as well. Alright, here's that little slot I was talking about. Also, after I've got everything dressed down, what it looks like, nice and smooth. After you get it sandblasted, it's going to look just perfect. Next up, I have a little strip of aluminum here and my little flange pliers, and I'm just going to put a little kick on this. And this is the little filler plate that's going to go behind that slot that I put in there. And I'll go ahead and just get that tacked into place. And that pretty much completes the fabrication of the chest plate. This is the Deathwatch style chest plate, or the episode 1 chest plate, or post-era Mandalorian chest plate that I'm building. So this is what it looks like after it's done being fabricated. On to the thigh plates. This is going to be a little bit of a rinse and repeat for getting this stuff cut out, but there'll be some cool beading features and other stuff in there. So let's get rolling on this stuff. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do on these thigh plates is roll beads in them. And these beads are, you can kind of see it, you'll see it here in a minute what exactly I'm trying to accomplish. I'm rolling a bead in it, and then I'm going to cut around the edge of the bead. And it makes it look really cool. I do this to both of them. Now on this thigh plate, there's a bead that goes up and one that goes down, and we'll put the one that goes down here in a minute. But the first thing I want to do is get all the beads that are going up so I can take them over to the bandsaw and get them cut out. On the right side thigh plate, there's a little step in the middle here, a little raise. So that's what these dies are for. They put a little step in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in as well. Alright, I know these features are kind of hard to see with the plastic on, but when we get them sandblasted, they pop out and they look great. So let's get the thigh plates cut out here. I'm going to cut around the edge of this bead, and then we'll get to forming them. Now that I have my plates cut out, I got to put in this reverse bead. So I'm just going to do that real quick here. And then we're going to make our way over to the tool bench. Get our thigh plates deburred, smoothed out, all the cutting edges smoothed out, so nobody's getting cut. And then we'll make our way over to a different workbench. Yeah, look at that. Nice and shiny. Great looking. Now we just have to get them formed. And how I'm going to form these is I just have... This is a old air tank, and I'm just using Tweakonomics here with a leather mallet, and beating them down, making them nice and smooth. And I'm using that leather mallet so it doesn't mar the material. You don't want hammer marks in aluminum. Mars are really easy, so you want to use something, wood, something that's not going to mar your material and still allow you to form it. All right, thigh plates are looking great. Next up, we got our hip plates. Smoothing them out here and deburring them. The next thing I'm going to do here is roll them in the slip roller. I'm just putting a slight little radius to them. Then I'm going to make my way back over to the beading tool. I have these lines on here. I'm going to go ahead and put a bead on each hip. Got my beads in. I'm going to go ahead and do some more Tweakonomics. Just bending it over this little dolly right on that bead to give it that bent look like they have there on the Mandalorian. Just working by feel. This is also kind of showing you the benefit of working with 300 aluminum. You can get away with kind of bending it over your leg and bending it over a dolly, not needing super expensive tools to form it, but being able to move the metal easily. And now I'm going to go ahead and use the bead roller tool with the radius edges and radius all these edges all the way around. Now on some parts of this I can't reach with the radius without flattening out the bead. So I'm going to go ahead and use my radius dolly, my smaller radius dolly, and a plastic mallet and finish off the little radius just like that. Alright, now we have our back plate, our upper back plate here. This is how the two go together. We've got our butt plate and our two knees, our knee armor. I'll go ahead and show you how I'm going to fabricate all this stuff. Already been sheared out, cut out, deburred. This is the butt plate, and I'm using those step dies like I did on the center of the right thigh plate, and I just rolled a little step all the way around this, and this will be more visible when I take the plastic off. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my Tweakonomics trick again here and just tweak it over the top of this to give it the bends that it needs, and there you go. Butt plate is almost done. Now I'm back over to the slip roll. I'm just going to put a slight bend in these back plates. They don't need much, just enough to kind of rest on your back, and then I'm going to roll the radiuses on the back plates as well, making them look nice and fancy schmancy. And then on to the knees. The knees have two 90-degree bends on each of them. I'll go ahead and put those two 90-degree bends in here with the apron brake. And then I'm going to make my way over back to the workbench. Alright, I'm going to bend the rest of these knee pads over this larger radius dolly that I have on my table. I'm using the plastic mallet to kind of form the parts where you can't force it down. These knee pads have a complex curve to them. So I'm going to make my way over to the planishing hammer. And the first die I'm going to use, so the bottom die, it's a number 4, which means it's a 4-inch radius. So if you took this technically and planished, you should be able to planish a 4-inch ball. Or no, an 8-inch ball. It's a 4-inch radius. So I'm going to go ahead and planish this out. As you can see here in a minute when I bring it up to the camera on how much the planishing hammer forms this, to see how nice and smooth that is and complex. But doing that planishing actually took out some of my bends, so I'm going to go ahead and put those bends back in. And then I have this radius dolly where I'm putting the edges back on, just like so. So while you're planishing, you can deform the edges because it's hammer and dolly situation. It smashes the metal. So I'm just going to clean it up with my angle head grinder, making sure they're nice and smooth and look nice. So these knee pads aren't perfectly like the Mandalorian's knee pads, but I still want to add this side feature. So I have a couple chunks of 1/8 inch aluminum that I'm just scoring with my cutoff wheel here, sorry. And I'm going to go ahead and weld these into place and then smooth out the weld to make them look like one smooth piece. And this is what that side feature looks like after it gets smoothed out. You can see the little area where I hit it with the cutoff wheel. Just a cool little feature on the side to make it look more complex. Now when I hit the record button on my camera, I forgot to record, which stinks, but I'm still going to show you what I did. I still have the back plate to do after I noticed the camera wasn't recording. So to put in the damage, I'm just taking my TIG torch here, adding a little bit of rod so it doesn't burn all the way through, and then just slightly hitting it with the hammer, just like a blaster bolt hit the armor. And I'm really wanting this armor to look really abused and used, so I put a lot of blaster strikes in it all over everything. I think it looks really great with the melted look from the TIG torch and the hammer strikes. Now moving on to one of my shoulder bells here. This is 063 3003 aluminum, but I still want to anneal it to make it super soft. So that's what I'm doing here. I use the soot from the torch and I'm just burning that soot off. And what this does, after you quench it, it makes it super soft. So watch how easily this forms, just like that. It's almost like, not tinfoil, but it's really easy to form. So I'm going to start off here by shrinking this top edge to get it to start forming the way I want it to. And then I'm going to make it way over to the sandbag with a radius plastic mallet to start forming the dome of the shoulder bell. And just keep on shrinking that top edge to keep it uniform and then striking it with the plastic mallet, and then it's on to the planishing hammer, and I'm just going to planish, smooth everything out, and then if I want to dish it more, I make my way back over to the sandbag, strike it more with the mallet and shrink the top edge more, and then it's just back and forth until I get it to the general shape that I want. So I'm going to be doing that here for a minute or two. So with the planishing hammer, if you're wanting to get the material to move a lot, you're going to use a smaller radius die. So I usually start off with a 2 or a 3 inch radius die, which is going to form it a lot more than a 5 or a 6. And then depending on what shape you want it to take, you'll start moving it up to 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 24, whatever. But you want your final pass to be the biggest radius, so it's the smoothest as possible, if that makes sense. But it's a lot of work, a lot of hammering, and a lot of just trying to get it to where you want it to be. And this is, you can see how smooth it is now, almost mirror-like. So I'm done with that at this point. Now it's time to get the edges straight. And how I want to do this is I have a set of center punches, bunch of different sizes. I'm just going to shim it up and use my table and the point of the center punch to mark a line all the way around it to make it look so you can square up this edge. And I'm just taking the hand shears and shearing it out here. Then after I'm happy with how it looks, I'm going to take a DA to smooth over the edges here and to take out the marks from the shrinker. Alright, I got it all planished, smoothed out, got my edges straight. The next thing I'm going to do here is put a little raised center section on the shoulder bell just to give it more of a feature. It's going to look like the Chapter 1 kind of tan shoulder bell that the Mandalorian had. Is kind of the look that I'm going for. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with that strip of aluminum, since I can't fit this into my bead roller with the shape that it is. And so I took a piece of aluminum about 1.125 wide, put 2 little kicks on either end, and I'm just gonna weld on the bottom here, and then just force it over, clamp it, trim off the top section, and then I'll weld the top, and that will be it for that. One thing that I like to do to my armor, now you could leave it like it is in the flat form. It still looks really good, but the one thing I like to do is add about 1/4 inch of foam to the back of my plates to give it a lot more depth and to make it look like armor. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I've just marked out with some big blanks of foam. I'm going to go ahead and spray adhesive these together. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Now that I have all my pieces glued together and kind of set up, I'm just taking a razor blade here and trimming off the excess foam. Now I am cutting towards myself, and you should never do this, but I feel comfortable doing it. I'm willing to take the risk, so don't be like me. Alright, I've got all my pieces trimmed with the razor blade. Now I'm going to do a final kind of trimming here with the angle head, just leveling up all the foam with the edge of the metal, making it look nice and smooth and clean. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and pop a 3/16 drill bit through all the holes that were originally in the metal through the foam, so I can insert all my PEM studs. This is a 1032 PEM stud, PEM stud, and these are all how I'm mounting my plates to my soft parts. And like with the chest, the PEM studs are for mounting the two side plates to the backer plate. I'm just go through here and put all these PEM studs in. And alright, that is the fabrication process here. I'm going to go through each armor piece here, just gets you some close-ups. You can see they're painted right now. There will be a video coming up to show you how I went about painting this, and this process is the same for all the parts. But this is the finished product here. Looks pretty good. Get it back in the light. You can see I have it bolted together, and where those PEM studs came into place there with the nuts here to hold it together as one piece, and then I have 4 mounting screws used to mount it to my vest. So that is that. You can see how the TIG'd blaster strikes came out, and I'm really happy with how this came out. That's the chest plate there. Here are the back plates, all painted, same color, orange. Really beat up. Really cool. You have the PEM studs on the back for mounting. On those, everything's easily mountable when it's made out of metal and you have these PEM studs. It makes life a lot easier. Now, I didn't get this process of this shoulder bell how I made it, because I was just trying to see if I could build a shoulder bell comparable to the one the Mandalorian has in Chapter 1. So that's this one here, what you weren't able to see. You have the PEM studs on the inside and the foam, and it came out pretty good. Not perfect, but it'll make a cool looking shoulder bell for this post-Empire Mandalorian build. And then this is the one that you saw me make here in the video. Put some blaster strikes on this too. On it, it's blue. Those are those two. Here's the right thigh. Back of it, PEM studs to mount. Painted it in that teal as well. I did this. I did the back plate, the front plate, and that shoulder bell in the orange. These and the knees as well in the teal. Sorry, I keep on getting. I'm gonna move this light a little further back so I can get closer to the camera. These in that bluish teal. How I came up with the colors was I wanted to kind of wanted to look like a retro style Mandalorian. So oranges, teals, got some maroons, but there's that little feature on the side. I haven't made these yet. These are actually PEM studs here, and I'm going to make those little dart shooter things or whatever they are, so I can screw those on, and that will be in a different video. Blaster strike here. And yeah, with the way I painted these, I really like how they came out, and you'll see that process here in the next video. Have the left thigh plate, maroon. I really wanted these to look like they've been through a lot, and I feel like I accomplished that. The butt plate in maroon as well. kind of the same color that the Mandalorian has in Chapter 1 there. And then the hip plates, I also went with a dark blue, navy-ish. With PEM studs on the back. Yeah, and like, so with the knee pad, how I like mounting my knee pads is I have 2 PEM studs here, and then I'll take a piece of elastic. Actually, I go to Menards and buy the really cheap $4, $5 knee pads that are just foam, and they have a strap around them. I'm basically just buying them for that strap. I know it's not cost effective, but it's a really nice strap. And so I'll put the strap on here through the PEM studs, and also the PEM studs through the pants. And so you can put that strap internally, so the knee pad always is stuck to the knee. It's not going up and down. You'll notice in the new trailer for the Mandalorian, his knee pad is really low. And I think they mounted it there, but I like my knees to be on my knees. So anyway, this is a really great way of mounting it. So you mount it through your flight suit pants with the strap, and that really keeps it tight to where it needs to be. Yeah, PEM studs on that. Anyway, that's that build. I don't have the Deathwatch kit in my possession. My brother has those. He's painting those. That build is a build I'm doing with my brother and a friend. So my brother is going to be the 1 stripe. I'm going to be the 2 stripe, and my buddy's going to be the 3 stripe. Shout out to Tim. And we're working on that all together. I did the armor parts. My brother's going to do like the flight suits and all the painting and all that stuff. And Tim's doing some awesome 3D printing for us with the shoulder belts, the gauntlets, the blasters. And so we're all kind of building all this stuff for each, so it's going to be cool when they're done. I'm really excited for that build as well. And I'll kind of document what I can on that build. So I just wanted to throw that Deathwatch as part of the thumbnail too, because this is exactly how I went about making the armor plates for the Deathwatch build. So anyway, that's this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget about Patreon. These templates will be up on my Patreon page as soon as I post this video. So they're available right now. It's a $5 tier. You'll have access to the PDF where you just print each piece out one-to-one, or if you have access to a CAD program, there'll be a DWG file there as well, so you can tinker with them and size them in CAD if you want to too. And that's the $5 tier in my Patreon tier. I also have a $10 tier, which is a giveaway tier. Right now it's a sword, and I keep on saying it. I'm going to give away that sword here in the month of October. I just got to get time to do the drawing, get that video up, and give some people a little extra time to jump in that $10 tier as well. There's not very many in that tier right now, maybe 8 to 10 people, so your chances of winning are pretty good. And then there'll be some other stuff over these next couple months I'll be trying to give away. I'd like to, those people paying the $10, I'd like to get them some cool stuff in their hands. I've just been kind of waiting yeah, for that Patreon part to build up so I could justify giving away that sword. And we're to that point now. Next up, what else do I have? Patreon. Don't forget about my Instagram, which is May the Schwartz Be With You cosplay. It's in that little in the intro description. It flashes across the screen. If you want to follow me over there, you'll get some insight into what I'm building currently. And yeah, there's more stuff. If you like my channel, subscribe. If you like my videos, like them. If you got something to say, comment. I do read the comments. I haven't been active in the answering back, but I am reading your guys' stuff. I'm trying to answer the questions and stuff in the videos, so keep on watching my videos to get your questions answered if it has something to do with fabrication or painting or whatever I'm doing. I always try to, in the next video, show that process. The current build, what I'm working on right now, is I'm remaking, I know I already did this, but I'm remaking the Mandalorian's helmet. And I'm doing it in a slower process. I'm going to drop those videos probably in around 10-minute segments. And I'm going to try to narrate like I did on this one and explain more of what it is I'm doing. That was the #1 question, or the #1 kind of complaint that I had in the Mandalorian helmet build was, you know, you should have narrated this and that. So I'm going to break it apart in, like I said, 10-minute segments. And I'm going to post them week by week or whatever. Whenever I get one done, I'll get it posted. So yeah, I'm building through that. I'm also planning on doing the season 2 Mandalorian upgrades to my armor that I have now, which will include, if you didn't notice, I'll replace the right thigh, add the knee. I want to redo the thermal detonators on the side. I have to get those built, and some other upgrades to my armor that I want to do, which is the helmet is part of that. I'm upgrading my helmet. And yeah, there'll be a lot. I know it's old Mando stuff that I've been doing, but there's so much content and so much stuff I want to make, so I'm just going to make it, and I'm hoping you guys want to see me do it. Anyway, this is a long outro, so I will cut it off here. My name is Matt Schwartz. I'm the Welding Geek. Stay tuned for more, guys, and thanks for watching.